Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to the Rotary Club of Des Moines. No one will accuse me of being nonchalant about the Today is January 6th. This is the Rotary Club of Des Moines, in case you were wondering where you are. I'm Matt Busick, President-elect, filling in for President Catherine Staub today. We're so happy to have you. In just a minute, past President Skeet will inspire us. And of course, after he does, he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance in the Rotary four-way test. But before I turn the mic over to Skeet, I'd like to make sure all of you are aware that Dr. Bob Jones passed away on December 27th. Bob was a member of our club for nearly 28 years. He served our community professionally as a neurosurgeon. He also served us as a pianist, you remember. Recall Bob played the piano for many years for us at our holiday lunches. We send condolences to Bob's family, and I'd like you to please join me, please stand and please join me in a moment of silence for Bob. Thank you. Okay, Skeet, inspire us.
It's wonderful to see the love continues. You know, one of my favorite Rotary memories was Randall Winters and Dr. Jones playing dueling pianos. So if you didn't get to hear that, it was really something. Today's moment of inspiration. There's a wonderful essay called I Pencil that explains the extraordinarily complex story of making a simple wood pencil and the logistical challenges involved in every step of the process. I would encourage you to read it, and if you can't find it online, email me and I'll be happy to send a copy of it to you. I think it will help you understand what Randy's life's work is all about. Logistics is something most people take for granted. The first time most people thought about the supply chain was in the last couple of years when stores ran out of paper products. We all know now that logistics and the supply chain are a vital, critical component to the vitality of the economic and commercial activity of this country. With that in mind, we should all find inspiration from those who understand the complexities of the supply chain, the choreographers of our ability to procure what we need when we need it, and to thank the dreamers and the innovators who continue to redefine how we get those things. The magnitude of the effort and the determination of those conducting that effort to find answers to how it gets here is great cause for inspiration. You want dinner delivered from your favorite restaurant? Today, you can call and boom, it's delivered. Amazon will also deliver you a candy bar. Remember too that FedEx started as a term paper that Fred Smith got a C on. His professor said, interesting idea, but it'll never work. The root of all things logistic is unconditional logistic regression models with generalized estimating equations with the exchangeable correlation structure connecting the standard error estimates for site level clustering, which Randy will explain in simple English in a few minutes. But in the meantime,
Such a deal.
But in the meantime, be thankful that there are people who do this incredibly complex dance so that you can get the things you need. Thank the FedEx or the UPS guy. Be grateful to truckers and warehousemen. Give the stocker at Fairway or Hy-Vee a fist bump. And remember, the next time you need a number 8 flathead Phillips stainless steel reverse thread machine screw, appreciate this finely organized global phenomenon called logistics and the supply chain in makes it possible to go to True Value and get it. With that, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the four-way test.
Is it truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Now wave at your fellow Rotarians.
Jordan, New Year's Skeet.
Thank you very much, Skeet. We do have a birthday today. We'd like to wish Rotarian KV happy birthday. And I believe KV is not with us, so KV, if you can see me through the interwebs, happy birthday to you. You'll note there are sign-up sheets on your tables to purchase tickets to the Iowa Wolves Rotary Night. That takes place on February 5. A portion of the price you pay for each ticket goes to Rotary's End Polio Now campaign. If you can't attend the game, you can donate tickets and purchase. You can donate the tickets you purchase. Your tickets will allow kids from across the metro to go in your place. Thanks to Jeff Stickle. Jeff, I saw you here. Maybe you could put your hand in the air. Take a bit of congrats.
By 4 to 24.
We appreciate your generosity, is what Jeff
Better
said.
go to the game.
Excellent. So I am actually excited because we get to introduce a new member today. I use the air quotes because he's been an active member for some time now. By Nadi Puram was sponsored by Kevin Kassir. So Kevin, I know you're not here. If you're watching us through the interwebs, thank you for your support. What I'd like to do is have a buy stand, and if you, well, do you want to come up here and tell everybody where you work and what you do real quick, and then I'm going to go through our standard questions. Kitty's freaking out because I'm going off script a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Well,
that's why you don't go off script.
well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abai Nadipuram. I'm the Vice President and Chief Legal Officer for Care Initiatives. As some of you probably know, Care Initiatives is a long-term care provider in Iowa. We're headquartered in West Des Moines. We have 43 nursing homes across the state, along with the hospice agency and assisted living as well. So we serve all in all about 2,800 islands. We employ over 3,000 Iowans as well. We're a nonprofit organization, and our home office is in West Des Moines on West Lakes Parkway with about 40 to 50 staff. So I'm really happy to become a member. Kevin Kassir and I actually go back to my time at Davis Brown when I was an attorney there, and I assisted InstaPro with some matters when he was the CEO there. So we're really happy to have that relationship with him and glad to be here.
Great, thanks so much. Now on to a few fun facts about Abai. So as all of you know, we ask questions of our new members, standard questions. The first is, you've got a free day, what would you be doing? And he responded, spending time with my wife Ronnie and our 7-month-old daughter, Karuna, riding my bike down to Cumming, grabbing breakfast at one of Des Moines' great restaurants, and or catching up on the Netflix HBO show. I guess you should tell us which ones are your favorites, or you can figure that out individually. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And you responded, 2 things. Be kind, and discretion is the better part of valor. I could learn a lot from the second one. What talent or skill do you possess that might surprise or delight people? Abai said, I studied Western classical voice at Wartburg and sang in the Wartburg choir for 4 years. Now, we do have a couple of strong singers in the club, so we're going to put you up against them. Still singing today with the Des Moines Choral Society. You're joining Rotary, Abai. What can't you wait to tell your friends? And Alex, maybe he's already told you this. About our organization, he responded, I don't think I would have otherwise met many many of the great people I've met so far had I not joined Rotary, and I think that's the best part of joining so far. The way I see it is the more people you can meet in life, the better off you are, because you learn a lot from others' perspectives. Abai, thanks for being a member. Thank you all for already stepping into the role of leadership on our Leadership Development Committee. And you're doing a fantastic job, as evidenced by Alex sitting next to you today. Everybody remember that our club's vitality is a function of our membership. Please do consider membership development. Okay, without further ado, it's time for you, Paul Kirpus, to introduce our program.
Thanks, Matt. Happy New Year, Rotarians. It's good to be together after the holiday break. Today, we'll hear from an expert with a full career of supply chain and logistics leadership. Our fellow Rotarian, Randy Worth. Randy's topic is the supply chain, an overview of why it is broken. But first, let me share a little bit more about Randy and context accordingly. Randy has a BS degree in physical distribution, traffic, and transportation from Iowa State University, eons ago, with a double minor in economics and industrial engineering. After brief stops at Armstrong Tire and Rubber, Fidelity Warehousing, Mid-America Warehousing, as warehousing manager, etc., he spent 42 years with Merchants Distribution Service here in, it's a division of 10D companies headquartered here in central Iowa. Randy has served as sales and marketing manager, warehouse superintendent, warehouse manager, vice president, general manager, etc. So a lot of different roles that way. But also he's been a leader in the industry. Served on several industry association boards, including the Associated Warehouses, American Chain of Warehouses, the Midwest Association of Rail Shippers, so a lot of railroads and folks involved there, and also served on the National Association of Rail Shippers. Randy has 2 adult children, Steve, who works for another of the 10D companies, MDS Records Management, and a daughter, Stacy, who's a doctor that reviews hospital cases for Medicare fraud and lives in Lee Summit, Missouri. Randy retired from Merchants in 2018, but now does consulting, and I really appreciate that because he works on some projects I'm involved with. He and his wife, Evie, have been married for over 50 years. They enjoy supporting their church, attending car shows, and spending time at the Lake of the Ozarks. Please help me welcome Randy to the podium.
Oh my. Well, thank you, Paul, for that kind introduction and whatever it was Skeet said. All right, well, let's fire this thing up. On the way today, I went past the church and they had a sign out front that says it's too cold to change the signs. So thank you for braving, and for those of you out there, you didn't have to do that. By age 10 or 11, I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know what it was called, and most of you know I lived with my grandparents, and so my grandpa had an appliance business, and we'd come to Des Moines to get stuff or wherever. And so from the passenger seat of the pickup that I now own, that was his last truck, I knew that it was mostly done behind the scenes, but it was getting stuff to people, you know, and whoa, hello, and that interested me, and I knew, hey, you know, I don't know, this is it. So, pardon me while I fire this thing up. It's ready. It's there. Wow, look at there. So with the help, maybe of a child's Christmas wish, let's follow the supply chain from China to Des Moines. A macro view of a micro subject. Each little individual piece you could spend all kinds of time on. And the adventures of Barbie. I'll get to that in a minute. Forward. Where do I shoot it, this thing at? Up there?
It's not working, neither do I.
All right, there you go.
There we go. Okay, so logistics, what is it? Well, Skeet, it used to be, in the dark ages, just a piece of all of the topics that went into degree. Basically, where do you put your manufacturing plant based on where your customer base is, or where do you put a warehouse or your terminal or this, that, and the other? And over the years, then the term has evolved into now it's actually the umbrella over all those little pieces. So that has evolved into what we know then as the supply chain. So what is it? I'm happy to do this if I just back one. Okay. It's the management of goods and service, goods from the source to the consumer. 10, 12 years ago, you might have remembered the FedEx or UPS ad said, "We love logistics." Day before that, hardly anybody knew what logistics was, and the day after it, everybody knew. That's what it is. Oh, it's getting stuff, getting stuff to people. The logistics spend is not small. Worldwide, 8.6 trillion. In the U.S., close to $1 trillion. The interesting part is this is about 50% higher than it was only 5 years ago. So, looky there. How we got to where we're at. The movement to China actually started in the late 70s, though we didn't really hear too much about it. Hit full steam in the mid 80s. And even in the 80s, you remember a lot of manufacturing, even in the United States, was moving. Companies moved out of the Rust Belt, went south, this, that, and the other. And then NAFTA hit, and that put Mexico on the scene. And this quote, "If we continue to move our manufacturing offshore at some point, we will become unable to defend ourselves." Do you have any idea who said that? How about that great sucking sound? It was Ross Perot. Yeah. You know why Ross dropped out of the presidential race? Because his wife didn't want to live in a smaller house in a poor neighborhood. And for that, the clicker went off. All right. So why move to China? Why move anywhere else? Yeah, these are pretty boilerplate. We've heard them before. Low wages, permissive regulation environment. This currency, and kind of dangled the carrot to the populace that they can move up, into the middle class. So, based all that, the adventure begins. So here's imagine this. Your granddaughter, guys, comes and hops up on your lap and says, "Grandpa, I need to talk to you. This is very important." And you say, "Okay, Grandpa, I want a Barbie doll for Christmas." "Okay, I want a holiday Barbie doll for Christmas." "Okay, with a purple dress, not a blue dress, a purple dress." "Got it. Barbie doll, holiday Barbie, purple dress, with a white necklace." "Got it. Holiday Barbie, purple dress, white necklace." "Thank you, Grandpa," and you get a hug. All right, then the family cat walks through the room, and the cat and the daughter have a love-hate relationship. She's off your lap, she's gone to terrorize the cat. So in the old days, your holiday Barbie would have come to Merchants in a boxcar with 2 or 3 destinations in the car, and back then they called those track cars. And if we were the first stop, our stuff would be there in the middle, and you would unload it by order and then deliver it to your retailer of choice. Today, granddaughter's off, you're whipping out the phone, you're glad you actually know what a Barbie doll is. So you think, man, this is all right. You call up your favorite online retailer, and there it is. Hot dog. Order that baby, pay for it,
And it says when it'll, estimated arrival, it's gonna be there long before Christmas. You are in Flint. So your order, you've paid for it, the order goes into the chain, it gets to the factory. Factory produces the carton because they, produce them in master cartons. And lo and behold, that's enough that it is an order that can be shipped to the ship. Only problem, when they call for the container to come pick it up, the container can't get there for another week because they don't have it. So Barbie sits on the dock for a week. Well, after a week goes by, the truck comes, it's loaded. Because it's light, it goes into a 40-foot container. It gets hauled down to the port of Shanghai, which is the largest port in China. And it waits for another week, waiting for the ship. All right. Well, that's, you're used to seeing a ship loaded with containers. Well, this is what one looks like empty. So you can see all the racks and stuff that actually help hold the containers, blah, 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 blah. The middle part there is where the captain is and the crews, all the crews lodging in their recreation area, the bathroom, and all that kind of stuff. And so here comes the ship. There's Barbie being loaded. That's just one dock at the port of Shanghai. They're not very forthcoming about how big the place is, this, that, and the other. But lots of cranes, lots of stuff. That ship can hold 18,000 TEUs, which stands for 20-foot equivalency units. So if they put 18,000 containers on that ship, they'd all be 20-footers. Well, there's 40-foot containers too, so that's 2 units. So not all ships, it's not going to have 18,000, but going to have quite a bit. And there's Barbie. She's loaded up. She is heading for the Los Angeles, Port of Los Angeles, and it's going to take 10 to 20 days to get there. Okay, we got a problem. There's a problem. It's not things are not always that great out on the ocean, and you can tell the racks are still in there, but they're not holding up too much. It is kind of interesting though how they're all nested together, because containers have on the tops they have holes, and on the bottom they have feet, and they all nest in there to help hold as well as the rack. But that's got a problem. Oops. Okay, that's fine. So if Barbie went for a swim, the story's ends and I can sit down. But fortunately, her ship misses the storm, sails right on through, and we're good. This is overview of just one itsy bitsy teeny weeny part of the Port of LA. You can see ships there being unloaded. You can bother to count the black dots up there at the top. There's 36 ships. That's a very old slide because as of this morning, there's 100 ships out there. And so when they say, X number of ships are waiting in queue for the port, we don't really know if they're actually they can be seen from the port if they're actually there, or have they slowed them down and they're just in line, to get there. Either way, it's a bunch. So this port totally covers 10,200 acres. It has 80 berths, 10 piers, 150 miles of railroad track, and 40 terminals. It is a big place. And it's not, you often hear of the port of LA Long Beach. They're actually 2 separate ports. Okay, so that's just LA. Long Beach is 2 miles further south. So anyway, this is a picture of just kind of one terminal. You can see the cranes in the back, containers waiting to come or go, trucks lined up to go through the gate to come get them, trucks leaving. you can do some simple math. If a ship has 14,000 containers on it, and the berths are maybe 80% full, you got 80 ships and 14,000, it's not, and stuff coming and going, you got 500,000 containers sitting around this place. Anyway, so Barbie's at this terminal, and her trip from here is gonna be by rail, still in the container. So she's offloaded at the appropriate terminal, set off to the side to be loaded on a well car. Waits her turn, day comes, she gets loaded in a well car, and she makes a 20-mile trip down to the rail yards in downtown LA. An odd place for rail yards, but that's where they're at. So, what do these ports have in common? Just as a tidbit of information, they all have Chinese ownership. Not the port themselves. I don't want to give you any false information, but particular terminal inside the port. There's not only China, but other foreign ownership too. I don't want to pick on them too much. And these are only 5 of the 19 ports that are in the country. Here's kind of where shipping containers started out as far as size. The little one up there that you can barely see had, I can't read it either, 800 TEUs down to our current, they call it past new Panamax, which references the widening of the Panama Canal. We can get to that later. The Triple E class went into service in 2013, and that's the bad boy that can handle 18,000 containers. So Barbie's heading for downtown LA. She's going to be put on the Union Pacific. And these are the 8 Class 1, that's a Class 1 carrier. And these are the 8 Class 1s that operate inside the United States. Now most of all those top 7 don't really want to admit that Amtrak is one of them, because Amtrak's mostly passenger, but they do tack on a few freight cars every once in a while, so nobody really likes Amtrak that much, of the railroads anyway. So then within the railroading, there's 3 classes. Class 1 exceeds 250 million, blah, 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 blah. And that number gets adjusted for inflation. So today, that number is closer, for Class 1, about 380 million. If you like statistics, or your kids love it, whatever, they would love working for a railroad. And I will say the whole supply chain is very friendly and a leader in ladies working. I mean, they're open to anybody. That didn't come out quite right. I mean, they took me. What can I?
You're among friends, Randy.
Among friends. You know, I was telling them at the table, I said, however many people are here, there's one less than the total, just glad they're not up here. All right. So this is the map of Iowa and the rail lines that are serve Iowa. And the dark line that kind of goes through the middle, that's the UP line that goes through Ames and Marshalltown, Cedar Rapids. Train about every 20 minutes, it's double tracked. They don't slow down much. I lived in married student housing. My unit in Pamela Court backed up to the railroad tracks. You could tell which way the train was coming. You could also tell when 2 were coming, and you just hoped they were on opposite tracks. So, but anyway, that's that. So, Barbie goes through Ames, Cedar Rapids. She's wheeling her way 70 mile an hour into Chicago, and we have a problem. maybe a bad day on the railroad.
Uh-oh. Bad name for the internet.
Oh, well, you know.
Bad day on the internet.
Yeah.
Information super app.
I'm gonna use my hotspot.
Okay, we can skip it if you like.
Oh, well, give me 2 seconds and we'll see if
Okay.
we can do it.
Oh. It's worth the wait, I guarantee you.
When we're waiting, Randy, you mentioned the Union Pacific line, east-west, you know,
Mhm.
trains. I understand about every 18 minutes, there's a full unit train going by.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that business?
Yeah, between, you know, unit trains, coal trains, which are, of course, going down this side of the- It's okay, kitty.
It's going.
It's
not,
going.
Well, it's not shown on your screen, however.
Oh, okay.
Would you like Susan Boss and I to act out Barbie and Ken for you?
Beat it, Ken. I'm taking over.
There we go.
Yeah. Notice it's a Union Pacific train. What else do you notice? He didn't slow down. Here we go. All right, here's another one.
Oh. Sorry.
He did stop.
Oh,
Because he's pushing a minivan down the street. Also a UP train.
Wow.
That's enough picking on the
Yeah, watch it, Randy.
UP. All right, well, there's one more. That's okay. Well, that one there, the guy goes around the bar and the car gets smacked. And then there was another one where kid's on a bicycle and train goes by, he goes around the arm only to encounter a train coming from the other direction. He did not get hurt. He saw it, he stopped, wet his pants some probably, but that's what that was. So we still have a continuing problem. Barbie gets through Chicago, gets to the yard. The container yard is southwest about 50 miles. Actually the BN's yard's out in that same area. And the yard's full. And this has happened a couple times where they had to put trains on side tracks for about a week in order for the yard to get worked out. Truckers, the ideal delivery range is 200 miles for a container. Des Moines 285. It's hard to find a truck that wants to bring stuff to Des Moines. Why? Well, because they can deliver in Chicago market 2, 3, 4 loads a day and make whatever they get paid. Or they can come to Des Moines and maybe have time when they get back to deliver one more load, so it's only 2 hours. So that's that. I guess I already covered that. So here's the problem. They make an appointment. Truck gets to the warehouse. He's an hour late. Warehouse makes him park to the side so they can get him in. There's no problem. Then it turns out that it's lunchtime. And we don't ever miss lunch. That's golden rule. So after some time, they open up a door for him. They unload the load, sign him out. Guy takes off back to Chicago. He's 3 hours behind. He swears he will never come to Des Moines again. And that's that. So the warehouse then notifies, they've checked it all in. They notify the receiver that they have the load, and the receiver's docks are all full. So now it's got to be put into storage for a short period of time. Another problem. this is fairly, a lot of warehouses are all racked. The racks might even be supporting the building stuff. There's a no-no, the guy's parked in the middle of the aisle down there. And here comes our villain now. Well, it ain't over. It ain't over yet.
Oh, it's Legos.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, clear back to the wall. The one that I almost put on here was an alcohol warehouse in Germany. They did the same thing, and I thought you wouldn't want to see. Good part about this is nobody got hurt. Again, no, never mind. Underwear was in jeopardy there. Well, fortunately, Barbie didn't succumb to her demise there. After a while, the receiver says, "We're ready for it." You load her up, you take it over, and you get the holiday Barbie with 2 days to spare before Christmas. Big sigh of relief, just like you thinking, man, this thing's about over. Okay, so back up real quick. Issues at each port or each piece along the way. At Shanghai, there's other things, but this one's kind of central to me, is that the port really wants empties sent back. They don't want to bother picking up loads. You know, the steamship lines don't want to pick up loads. They need the containers back. So you can be sitting in your office, have a load that needs to go on the steamship line, that across the street, you have your neighbor, big business is getting a load, and that container will work fine, and they're not gonna bring it to you because they want it back. They want it back in empty. Last week, China float tested a new ship that will hold 24,000 TEUs. So the ships are bound to get bigger. They also float tested the week before that a new cruise ship that will hold more people. So, at Long Beach, none of the terminals operate 24/7. There's some discussion about changing that. Certainly it wouldn't be all of them. But there's residential neighborhoods close to the ports. And even now, trucks line up wanting to get in the gates, and they block people's driveways. You've probably seen that on TV. And so it's not an easy thing to fix. There's labor issues. You've seen all those cranes. They're supposed to move 3 containers a minute. So one every 20 seconds. And you're boogaloo high in the air. These guys, you just don't go out on the street and hire those guys. There's air quality standards in the ports. They will not allow a truck older than 2014 into the port. So if I own a trucking company, is it worth it to me to have newer equipment to serve the port and wait for as long as I have to wait to get loads? Or do I just skip it and go find other things to do? And part of the problem is people go find other things to do. So they choose not to serve the port. Railroad issues, the industry is still absorbing the cost of positive train control, which is, you've heard about. It's I've been in the what they call the war room at the BNSF, and there they can control any train anywhere on their system. Well, positive train control, by
microwave and cell phone signals and this, that, and the other. If they come up onto a signal and the engineer doesn't obey that signal, then the positive train control shuts the train down. And you may remember there was some issues on Amtrak several years ago where a couple trains hit each other. There was also one in California the day after they went from a two-man crew to a one-man crew. Anyway, so Intermodal Yards are strained. We've covered that. Again, labor, it's not an easy job on the railroad. Railroads own all of their own right-of-way, the rails, all that stuff, so there's maintenance they gotta do. Decline of coal shipments is kind of an issue. The adoption of precision scheduling, if you have nothing else to do, Google a guy named Hunter Harrison, and he was the father of precision railroading. That means if it's 10 o'clock, the train leaves, whether they got your car attached to the train or not. It's helped in some cases and hurt some, and again, nobody really wants to play with Conrail. Trucks, I did come up with 2 pages. There is a driver shortage, there's no doubt about it. Here's kind of an interesting thing about that. The Federal Highway Safety Administration, along with local and state folks, hold 2 big, massive roadside inspection things a year. Over the years, 18,000 drivers have been put out of service, not for equipment issues, but for drug and alcohol related issues. Of that 18,000, 17,000 have not returned to work. So the industry, I mean, these are all safe, every one of these are safety sensitive jobs, right? And they go to random drug testing and all this, that, and the other. So it's a real issue when society talks about legalizing casual drug use, this, that, and the other. I've seen it. Guy can go to a party, go to a bar or something on the weekend, not partake himself, inhale secondhand smoke. It attaches to his fat cells. He gets pulled for a random on Monday. He goes in, not thinking anything of it, and he pulls positive. So it's a problem. Fuel costs, that kind of stuff. All right, almost done. Warehouse, again, labor, cost containment, insurance costs. You got to be a good operator to get things through the warehouse smooth. Stuff like that. Seasonality of inventory is an issue. Some warehouses, public warehouses like we were, have some seasonal accounts. Safety, don't run into the racks. And then reverse logistics is a whole different, when you take something back, you send something back, it's a whole nother, it's an additional supply chain. So where are we at? How to summarize all of that. But we got used to just in time, and this is not new to me, but I agree with this. I think just in time will give away to just in case. That once things sort of catch up, there'll be inventory held in warehouses, and if you look north and east and northeast of Des Moines at all the warehouses that have been built over the last 3 years, that maybe supports that. You be the judge. Thanks for not throwing food at me. You have questions. Yeah. I'm done, thank you.
We have time for one question if anyone has one.
I have one.
Yeah.
With the new terminal that's being put in over here on the east side
Yep.
of the train terminal, how do you see that fitting in and addressing the question you raised specifically about Des Moines being an outlier for these big shippers into Chicago?
Boy, I was kind of hoping nobody'd ask that, but not because I don't have an opinion, but because I don't want to seem like a grump, though I am. The process for building that went through 4 bid processes. We were number 2 all 4 times. Well, the first 3 times, and after 3 times, we just said, screw it. So after the first time, you would think, okay, it was awarded to a company out of Omaha. They pulled it because then they found out that they had a severe OSHA issue. So instead of going to number 2, which would have been us, they started all over again. And they did this 3 times, and we stayed. I felt really bad for even getting us involved in it. And again, after the 3rd time, we said, so from my standpoint, what is not quite ready to open down there could have been operating 5 years ago. How it will affect things is kind of hard to tell. Depends on who they get to operate it, because they put it there, but they don't plan on operating it themselves. They want to bring in an operator, maybe somebody like us or anybody else. When I look at it, they got a boatload of track. And not that you don't need track to service it, but you gotta have area in order to work, right? And I don't think it's designed very well. The traffic that will come in there, they can get stuff off the BNSF from the Norfolk Southern. Both of those lines run into Des Moines together on the same track. They run Norfolk Southern crews with BNSF equipment, vice versa. If it wasn't for that, neither one of those 2 lines would be in Des Moines. The BNSF line across southern Iowa goes through Osceola, is also the Amtrak route. It's at capacity. Between that and coal and the Amtrak stuff, they don't really have a lot of capacity to move a lot of stuff. For manifest trains, which is a boxcar for you, a boxcar for you, a boxcar for me, they go through Kansas City, get to Galesburg, they stop, switched off, and then they have to come back. So it's not really a direct line. So that's how those 2 get in there. Iowa Interstate Railroads, Class 2 railroad, they can connect in their Blue Island, Chicago. They run through to Council Bluffs. They can get in there. Union Pacific gets in there by having a switching agreement with Iowa Interstate. So there's an additional switch fee if any UP traffic wants to get in there. Long-winded way of saying it's kind of hard to tell how that will play out. It won't do anything for container traffic. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Randy. Okay, well, thank you for staying to the bitter end. Let's see here. My notes are gone.
Oh, Randy, did you take his notes?
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Can you tell that this is a rookie running things? There we go. That's where I need to be right there. Okay.
They'll turn on you fast.
Awesome. Okay, couple of things to wrap up here. First of all, thank you, Randy, for your informative and interesting presentation today, and frankly for being a member of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. We're very happy to have you. We're donating a book in your honor to the Des Moines Library. Remember, this book is going to go into the Rosie Reader Van, Rotary.
It's going around.
That's right. Recall last year our foundation donated $40,000 to purchase this van through our community grants program. Upcoming meetings, just so you're aware of what's happening on the balance of January. We have Beth Niggett from EMC next week, Shane Ratcliffe from Recplex, the new Mid-American Energy sports complex on the west side, on the 20th, and on the 27th we have Brad Kruger from Da Vinci to tell us about the future of robotic surgery. So very interesting programs coming up. One last thing, it is a coat season. Everybody's probably cold. Make sure that it's your coat you're leaving with when you leave today. And thank you for being a part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. Thank you for being here. We are adjourned. Well done. You know, it's amazing.